Greetings, hope everyone's in good health. It's been on my mind for a while just to have a little discussion about kuksas. Kuksas have become very popular, particularly with those in the bushcraft, woodcraft community. But of course these drinking vessels go back generations, if not hundreds of years, in northern Scandinavian cultures. And many associate them with the Sami people too. So I just want to show you some examples of kuksas, or as they're known in, I believe in northern Finland and Lapland, Guksi. Okay, so here we have a more modern produced kuksa. This is pretty typical size, which is about 3-inch diameter, and probably holds, I don't know, maybe 350 milliliters. So if you want this as a dipping vessel, just for drinking cold water out of a stream or a lake, that's probably perfect. Or if you just like a small shot of coffee now and again, that's probably good enough. And to make a vessel like this, you have to find a burl on a birch tree, and often the burls look quite big, but when you actually take them off, they're not big enough to actually carve out and make a decent sized kuksa. I've been lucky this last few months. I found a couple of burls. This one here is probably somewhere in the region of 6 inches diameter, but don't be fooled by that. This would probably make I think a kuksa or a guksi of about maybe 500 milliliters, or maybe a little more. But typically, nowadays this is the size you would see for a drinking kuksa. And compare it with this older example here. This is probably 50 or 60 years old. This was made by the Sami and decorated with felt tassel, which is a very popular selection of colours amongst the Sami people. I don't think this is one that's actually made of a birch burl. I believe this is made from some kind of root like alder root, or maybe even birch root. I've actually dug out of the ground on a few occasions burls that look like this, and they're usually on the root of a birch tree, and sometimes on an alder, which grow by the water. So again, these are similar diameter, but the difference with this one here is it's very shallow. But again, Sami often use, or have used, shallower kuksis and kuksas as a dipping spoon, or for coffee drinking. Coffee drinking in Sami cultures involves some level of ritual and practice that goes back generation after generation. Again, this is a modern take on a kuksa, probably holds about 300 milliliters. This one, though, as you can see, has a very nice pattern on it. But that is not a burl. This is spalted birch. That's where you get almost like this marbling pattern on it. This like a flame kind of pattern on it. They're okay, but I find those are quite porous, and the whole thing about using a burl, and why burls and root has been used for many generations in Finland and northern cultures, is that the density of the wood, generally speaking, makes it waterproof. This is another example of a very old Sami Kuksa. See, they've got a leather thong on there. It's a typical way of carrying it on the belt. It goes on the belt. So it's always at hand should the traveller wish to quench the thirst. This again is made from what looks to me like a root, and as you can tell it's been well used because the many years of drinking very strong black coffee out of it has stained the wood dark. Again, this is a very old example too. It has the initials of someone on there, EHN. It's probably 4.5 inches diameter, again blackened inside, presumably from coffee, shallower, but again this more saucer-like or shallow bowl-like configuration is was very popular with the Sami people. Although most contemporary Sami Kuksas I've seen are more typically shaped like what we in the West would see as more like a bowl-shaped drinking cup, deeper, 3 inches diameter. Again, another old example here. This is probably going to be more like what I hope to achieve with this. And this is made out of a burl, obviously. Tell by the grain in it. Again, it's got the leather string on there to hang off the belt, so it's always ready for use. Can be used for drinking. It can also be used for, in this shape, it can also be used for eating small meals when you're travelling on the road. When you're nomadic, people certainly would have used it for that purpose. A more of a decorative type of Kuksa or Guksi would be one like this. This is a very attractive, quite typical Sami design, obviously made by an artisan. I think it has a date on there, but I can't quite read it. Looks like 1966, that one. And finally, I'll just show you one more example. This is a very old one, probably 150 years old again. Looks like it's made out of a root. It has an interesting lip that folds over the edge, which helps to stop it spilling, I guess. It's got holes in there for a leather thong. Probably holds about 250-300 millilitres. I guess this could really tell some stories. But one thing, if you harvest a burl like this, it's important to prepare it and keep it, don't let it dry out because inevitably they crack. By keeping it in water, this is fairly tight. I immerse it in salt water, very strong brine saltwater solution. And that does two things. It keeps it from cracking until you're ready to carve. When it's wet, it carves much more easily, if you've got the correct tools to do so, like a crook knife or something like that. You can, if there's a lot of material like here, you can carefully drill in here and drill a bunch of holes in here. That makes it much easier to break away the material inside, so that eventually you get to your finishing, which your finishing is much more time consuming because burls are not evenly rounded things, so when you're carving it's quite possible to on the inside is to have spent a lot of time carving all this out into a nice bowl inside. And if you're not careful, you can break through onto the outside, so you must be careful there. Material like is in here is a remnants of the bark. This will pull away quite easily. You can see it there. Once I start carving, all that will be taken off, because otherwise I won't really know where the edge of the actual burl finishes. I could break through into where the bark is, and that's totally ruined then, right? So when I cut them off trees, I always cut them like that, so I've got a long, almost bird tail shape coming off there, and I'll mark it roughly and trim it off with a hatchet on both sides. So that's the basic shape of a Kuksa or Guksi. But once I get close to, once I've stopped working using heavy gouges and chisels to remove the bulk of the material, then I'll probably cut it down to about that length there. But that's probably about 3.5 inches, plenty big enough for a handle on a drinking Kuksa or Guksi. The other thing you must look after, once you've made them, or if you buy one, you must look after them. And a lot of people don't know what to treat a Kuksa with, because they tend to think, oh well, it's a nice piece of birch, it'd look great with some linseed oil on, but that's not the kind of stuff you want to be ingesting at all. There are solvents certainly in boiled linseed oil. If you get pure linseed oil, I would only use it on the inside, because the problem if you use it on the inside as opposed to the outside, you'll find it very difficult to get rid of the taste of linseed oil from your coffee or water. And I don't know about you, I really want to enjoy that. So I use on the outsides, I actually use like a soft wax, which is designed, food grade wax, which is designed for coating chopping boards and butcher blocks, because that's non-toxic, it's not scented or doesn't have quick drying solvents in it, and that nourishes the wood, because where I live is fairly dry climate. Certainly down in the valley it's very dry, and what happens, they can not just distort, they will actually in some cases crack wide open, and then they're only fit for the garbage. So always keep them out of the sun, keep them in a box or a bag in a cool location when you're not on your travels, and oil them. I would say do them once a month if you use them regularly. This one still feels quite good. This has got a fairly good finish of wax on. Inside I actually use something called nature oil, which is a food safe oil without any unpleasant aftertaste in it, and that's often available from any stores that do, like woodcraft, woodworking, home woodworking products, and home, like wood finishing products. It's I think it's in a 250 milliliter bottle. It's an almost pure clear nature. It's probably like a mineral oil, although I'd hate to say categorically it's a mineral oil, because I may be wrong. Yeah, so it's just somewhat spontaneous rundown on Guksis if you prefer. And I think they're just wonderful things, and I do see, unfortunately I see a lot online, particularly on eBay, made in China Kuksas, and that really saddens me. I just think, there's a tradition of making Kuksas and Guksis in northern Scandinavia, and in some cases, like with the Sami, they're used as part of their traditional guild of craftspeople, spend a lot of time, and they have a lot of knowledge on making these wooden drinking vessels, and I just think it's very sad when you can buy them for next to nothing on eBay, and that's in essence, I think, taking away some of the opportunity to for the Sami people in particular to make some extra income. So I would discourage people from buying either fellow craftsmen making them and selling them on eBay. I'm not too keen on that either. I've nothing against you making one for your own use, and indeed I've done that, but I don't sell mine. I usually keep them or give them to family members. But if you must buy one, try and outsource it. Make sure it's a proper Kuksa or Guksi made from a burl and finished in the correct manner. And there are a number of craftspeople online who can provide such level of such quality goods. Okay, so I'm just trying to think if there's anything else there. Oh yeah, certainly don't put them in dishwashers, that'll totally destroy them. I wouldn't personally, I don't even wash mine in really hot water. I usually just wipe them out with a cloth, or just leave them to soak in cold water for a while with a bit of salt or something in it, and then just rub them out with a rough cloth. Let them dry naturally and then oil them. That's probably the best way to care for Kuksas and Guksis. Yeah, so once I've got some progress made on this burl I've just found, I'll put a little YouTube vid up about that, and hope some of you find it of some interest. And I always love to see people enjoying these old artifacts, because they're very much an integral part of the whole woodcraft and bushcraft thing nowadays. Okay, so everyone take care, and I'll see you again soon.